students are gone, but you are still here. And we know how you feel because you are done. But you have so much work to do to get ready for tomorrow. Good afternoon, podcast listeners everywhere. Welcome to After the Bell, a Stunt Brothers production. A podcast that gets inside the life of a teacher and provides a wellness guide for being prepared to take on this most challenging of professions. I'm Martin Stuvel.
And I'm Roy Hunt. And we share your pain, having taught a combined 70 years. The guarantee of this podcast is to make you laugh, make you think, and give you at least one little nugget that you can use in the classroom. So get out your marking, organize your supplies, or just pour yourself a coffee.
I want something stronger.
And listen, engage, and interact with After the Bell, a podcast for you, the hard-working, dedicated teacher who wants 3 lesson plans, free advice, and a free meal.
Okay, Roy, but I'm not paying for anything more than McDonald's.
Schneider leading off in a World Series game. He is going to be up first tonight with Blake Snell on the mound. Game 5 is underway with a fly ball to deep left. Gone!
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Martin.
What? Yeah.
Martin.
What?
What are you doing? We're starting our podcast, and you're listening to the baseball game from yesterday.
I saw the end of the game, but I missed the very first inning.
Okay.
And I didn't realize they scored 2 home runs, the Blue Jays, on the
it was
very
amazing.
first 2 pitches, right?
Yes.
Wow. And the first pitch was a
I know.
home run. Right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And so, and the excitement right now, this crazy.
Yeah.
The fever, and it was 32 years ago that the Jays won the World Series.
And do you know that Joe Carter's jersey is 32?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So and that's the only jersey you'll see in Toronto at the stadium, right? That's hung up that they've retired is Joe Carter's, I believe. That's true. And I'll be corrected by listeners if it's not. But what a game. What a series.
It has been I haven't watched baseball in such a long time.
No.
And I did stay up for the 18 innings.
I gave up at 11. I think I was 17 innings, and we resigned and left.
It was. I've never enjoyed baseball so much as I have this time around right now, and I'm watching it with my daughter, who was never really interested in baseball, but she's enjoying this. I can tell.
And I'm a hockey fan, so I've never really watched many baseball games, but I sure am watching them now, except for the first inning when I missed 2 home runs. But I find the rules and the strategy and just the managers, their involvement in deciding which pitcher at what time, when do we bring in the relief hitter, all those decisions and how you throw the ball. Like, there's so much complexity to the game.
I remember watching baseball as a kid, and I knew that there were a lot of statistics, and people would always calculate percentages, but that was just like, I didn't care. I just wanted to see a home run, or I wanted to see the game. And now it's just such a different level of breaking things down to percentages of curveballs and knuckleballs and sliders and how.
There's so much,
do
right?
you just do that?
And then you bring in a rookie. What's the name of their pitcher? Toronto's rookie pitcher, the guy they just brought in. I can't think of his name right now. But he, I think a month ago, was playing in the minor leagues. And they've brought him in, and he hit 12 people he struck out. 12.
Yes,
It's a World Series record for a rookie. Just phenomenal. And I think it's because they don't really know how he's going to pitch, right?
Yes, because he wasn't around when the Dodgers were playing against the Jays. He didn't go for what I believe is either he didn't pitch to the Dodgers or the number of pitches that he had pitched to the Dodgers was limited. Yeah. And so they didn't have the statistics about his percentages of pitches, and it was
because they study that, right? They really know.
Yes.
They know exactly.
They have lists
you're
of
gonna throw,
all of those
You're going to
things.
throw it this way. You're going to throw it that way.
And as a result of that, he's an unknown. So they couldn't say, okay, he pitches this way, so you should bat this way against him. He throws a slider, and then the next ball is going to be a curveball, so be prepared for that. So they look at predictable patterns to try to break the pitching code. And but they didn't have it, and it was, you could tell.
It's Yasavage or something. You say, how do you say it? Yes, it's
Yasavage?
Is that how you say this name? Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, something like that. You can now pick up that I am not a regular Blue Jays fan. I have jumped on the bandwagon, and I'm so excited. And I've jumped on the bandwagon about Ohtani. Like, he is, what an amazing player to watch him.
To have all that skill. I mean, they have the Ohtani rule.
Okay.
Because he's a pitcher,
right,
and pitchers don't bat.
Right.
So, but because he's a great batter, they have the Ohtani rule where he can pitch and he can bat.
Because I noticed them laying out all his equipment for him as he changed those rules, which normally they wouldn't do because there's a bit of a delay in the game. So is that the Ohtani rule? Is part of that, or?
And I love how he each player, when they come on, they have a song that they select. That sort of their intro. I mean, it's kind of like Darth Vader has his, that intro where da 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 da. So Ohtani has his intro, and it's Michael Bublé.
Really?
and it's Michael Bublé's song, and I can't remember the title of it. But each player has their own song. That
I heard them referring to that, right? Yeah. And they'll come on with a different song. Wow. But they shut them down. A team is more than just one amazing player. And I think that Blue Jays have this cohesiveness to them, this band of brothers, shall we say, that really is united around this series. Yeah. And, with Ohtani, I did notice that he would clean the recyclables out in the dugout, right?
Yeah, yes, something about at the end of the game,
his culture or his spirit that I was really impressed
with. They talked about how Ohtani, all the players from his from the dugout left, and he was cleaning the recyclables, as you were saying. Yeah. I also noticed that the players they're chewing they spit a lot.
Yeah, they chew on
sunflower seeds, and they spit the seeds out. Yeah. And Ohtani is hanging out with the other players, watching the game, spitting sunflower seeds into a cup.
Wow.
Right? So
it's a cultural thing, clearly. And I know, because you taught in Japan, and I think a part of the child's expectation is to help clean the class.
In the classroom.
We all do that too. We try, of course, but I think they do it in a way.
They do it to another whole other level. Yeah. In the junior high schools, they were sweeping the floors.
Right.
But they were also in the classrooms. They had kerosene heaters.
Okay.
They were bringing the kerosene to the classroom.
Right.
In like gas cans.
Really?
Yes. Washing things that needed to be washed. And it was like everybody.
Yeah.
So they basically got out of their uniforms, got into their because after cleaning the school, then they would go to their clubs.
Okay.
So they would get into their club uniform, which is basically like a it's a sweatsuit or a gym suit or a running suit, and they would do their cleaning.
Wow.
And then they would go to their clubs.
Wow. I'm so grateful for baseball right now because it's a bit of, you know me, I tend to watch the news and tariffs and all these things and other things and climate change. And then I had a new one that got me going, I tell you. So I was glad I could put on the baseball game. Part of the reason I probably missed the first inning because I was reading about what was happening in Alberta, where they invoked the Notwithstanding Clause, which allows them to violate the Constitution for 5 years, so they could order the teachers back to work. So that got my blood boiling.
Oh, I bet you
tell
did. Yes.
Trampling over labor rights,
right.
When you just have a bunch of teachers that are trying to get decent class size, right?
Yes, and it's not about the money.
No, it's not.
But they're looking at class size, and I read where there are some kindergarten classrooms with 40 students.
I couldn't believe that when I read. Is this 1948? What is this? Is this happening? That there's a kindergarten class with 40 kids in Canada? They have no limits whatsoever. Imagine baseball.
Well, in baseball,
right? Imagine
they have an average roster
of
26 players.
Right.
So they keep it. Sometimes it changes between the American League and the and the National
Right,
League.
it's kind of like two leagues, so
but
it's always weird. They're
it's
different
26
rules.
players
Yeah.
in the roster.
Right.
And so their pictures, the number of pitchers they have.
Okay.
They have an extra back catcher. They have, about 4 fielders. And so they have the roster of 26. And that's just, someone's injured, then they have substitutions.
Right.
But on the field, there are 9 players.
Right. And that's
And no
agreed
more
to.
than that.
And they realize that's how you have a decent game,
And
right?
all players abide by the fact that 9 works.
Yeah.
Right? All leagues work with 9
Right.
players. And so they see that the size in the sense of 9
It matters here, right?
Matters.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever done where you've been with your class and you are saying playing hockey and you try to have 4 different groups come on, and so they're not all on at the same time. But then you go, there's only 10 minutes left. Let's just put everybody on both sides, right? So you got 15 kids, and it's just chaos.
Yes, because
it is
it's
absolute
about
chaos.
It's about safety.
Yeah.
Right. It's about respecting some other people who have maybe lower skill level compared to others. So you see that there's a limit.
Yeah.
To the number of players in your gym that are all on the floor at the same
Yeah.
time. If it's basketball or floor hockey,
Yeah.
do you have all the students on? Someone will get hurt.
You try to referee that game, right? You
Yes.
can't see everything that's going on and what kids are doing and stick work and who scored which and who did what and who violated what rule. It is impossible
Yes, it's
to referee,
impossible.
right? The size matters. It really does, whether it's in baseball or hockey or class, right?
I think we
class
have
size
the
matters.
theme for our podcast
think
today
so.
for this episode, and that is size matters.
There we go. We got our theme. I like it. I like it a lot. There's sound.
Yes, that's
Good old sound. What? Tell us about it.
That's the sound of the nugget. And the nugget is a takeaway, something that you can use in the classroom or something that allows you to think about how you teach. So it could be reflective.
Right.
But it's something that you can use as a lens. Do you like that? And
Yeah,
use
I
as
do.
a lens to
Yes.
view your practice.
Yeah, and we're looking at class size and
Yes.
size
And
matters.
size matters.
It really does, right?
Yes.
And I think listeners will agree. I think people's experience as teachers will say, you know what, it really does matter.
Yes.
We hear all kinds of arguments against it. Usually they're financial arguments only, right? It's like, well, we can't afford it.
Yes.
We can't afford a lot of
can't
things.
afford a lot, but-
and think of what you save. I think if you have decent class size, you save a
Yes.
lot of money when you have a
save a lot.
healthy system built in where kids
That's
don't
right.
have to end up in some social program down the road.
Right. So what do private schools advertise when
Exactly,
they're saying, "Oh, you
exactly.
should come to our private school because
Class size? It's
Class
we have
size.
small classes.
Yeah.
What do they put in big letters, right?
yes, because if class size wasn't important, then private schools would say we have 80 students in a class, and that is going to be really good for your son or daughter to experience.
Right.
But it's not. It's the numbers are low compared to the public school system, and that's what's drawing a lot of people.
Yeah, and
to
think of
private
when I've had
schools.
smaller classes. I do the best I can with a larger class, but I can get to more kids. It's just a mathematical fact that I can get to more kids and get to know them better with a smaller class.
That's right. I mean, when you look at it, there are people who work in smaller companies, right? And they say, "Oh, I love it because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm part
personable,
of something.
right?
It's personable. They
Yeah,
know when
yeah,
my
yeah.
birthday is.
Yeah.
They know my family.
Yeah.
We go to events together. In a large company,
Yeah.
none of that is
Do we want
available.
just a factory kind of teaching, or
Yeah.
do we want something where you get to those core foundations that you and I have talked about so much in this podcast, right?
Yeah.
The foundations, the connections we make with the kids.
Connections,
It starts with that. If you
Yes,
don't
it
have
does.
that, the other
You're
things
right.
do not matter. And I'm just looking at an article from CBC about the Alberta strike. And, I know parents, they really understand too, right? They see what's going on. They're very supportive of the teachers. And there's a parent here from Alberta, Jacqueline Renfrow. This is a CBC article that was just in the newspaper recently or posted online. And she said she's grateful her kids will return to school soon after Alberta legislated teachers back to work. However, This Calgary parent called it a bittersweet feeling since a key issue of the 3-week strike was large class sizes and that this remains unsolved. And she just sees teachers so good at their jobs who just aren't able to get to the kids with all the needs. And they're not just, 30, 40 kids all in the middle somewhere. They have many, many needs, such diversity, which we welcome, but you need a class size that allows you to reach and teach that diversity.
That's right.
Yeah. So what about around the world are we finding, in terms of class size?
Reducing class size in the early grades from K to 6 from numbers like 25 or greater. We were just reading about some classes in Alberta with 40.
And that's what I find outrageous. We actually should be talking about getting down to 15, 16, 17. And Alberta is probably just hoping, let's get to 30.
So
right?
in this research, you're saying the best class size between 13 to 17 will show significant gains in student achievement.
Right? Yeah.
And those gains aren't just academic, but they're also long-term gains, especially for students that from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Yeah. And my research looking at Canada, it's amazing. I mean, BC is unusual that we actually have it in our collective agreement, and there's a long history where we had it, got taken away. They didn't impose the Notwithstanding Clause, so we got to fight it. It took 15 years. We got it back. But many provinces do have it written down in government legislation, a class size limit. But Alberta and PEI are the only place where they'd actually have no kind of limit. Now, some provinces, they'll have an average. And BC had this when our contract was stripped. We had an average, which is, it can sound good. Like, say you said the average must be 25. You go, that sounds really good. Mm-hmm. But you could have a class of 10
on one end
and a class of 40. That's an average of 25, right? So should there be a class of 40? No. So averages are a danger sometimes. Actual caps are a far better way. And, of course, there has to be some flexibility for certain situations, as there is in BC, where you get some support and remedy if you do go over that limit, right?
Well, I remember having a class of at least 32 and the possibility of more depending on the number of students coming into the school.
Yeah.
And now,
and it was still fitting the average.
And
it
was still fitting the average. Yeah. And then now, when I look at classes that I go into as a TOC, those class sizes maybe 27.
Yeah.
And if it's a split class,
it's 27, 29 with straight,
and 29 with the straight. And then our primary classes are 22.
Yeah, and kindergarten 20, right?
Yes.
But that's the thing. Those numbers even those are still challenging.
Yes.
So I can't imagine starting at above 30 with today's child and their needs. And even your typical kid, they're a lot more needy.
Yes.
I think every teacher would say that now, right?
And there's one teacher in the classroom. And if you're lucky, you might have an EA, you have some support. If there are 2 adults in the room, it's better.
Yeah.
But then oftentimes the extra adult in the room is for a specific student.
Yeah.
So the rest of the class doesn't always benefit from having that extra adult in the room.
And don't you think that the core idea that we've always brought on is about making connections with kids? That actually matters more than ever. Like even your typical kid, because kids and everyone is online so much. The classroom's kind of the last places where you're together in person, connecting, learning about each other, supporting each other. That I don't know what's going to happen to this generation if we continue on without making these kind of connections, because they need this so much.
They
right?
do, because those social connections for a lot of students aren't there.
Yeah.
It becomes I'm at school, there's my social connection, and people are saying, oh, I have to work with people in my classroom. And so you learn along the way.
Yes.
And then when I go home, not all of those students are playing on a team or something. They're locked in their bedroom, maybe on a device or gaming. I did do some research.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, well, what about those countries that have sort of elevated to the point where people say, that's the system. They're number one, or they're number two, or they're number three. What are their class sizes?
I always think of a place like Finland, right? You always hear so much about that, yeah.
So, just so happens on the top of my list right here, the average class size in Finland is 17.8 students.
Okay.
I don't know what a 0.8 student looks like, but it's 17.8 students.
Yeah.
And they rank 8th in the world in public educational
Okay.
outcomes.
Yeah.
Belgium has 17.3 students, and they're 4th in the world
Okay.
in their public school education
Okay.
ranking.
Mm-hmm.
Iceland, 19.6, they're 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Denmark, 21.6 students in a classroom, they're 2nd
Okay.
in the world.
So you're
And
seeing
then-
a connection here
and
when you
it's
look at
saying-
you kind of cross-referenced typical class size versus where they rank in the
ranking
world. Okay.
in the world
Right.
for public school education. And Sweden at 21.4 is 15th.
Okay.
There are more,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at those countries that have good rankings, and it correlates to, I believe,
Yeah.
their
Well, it
the
does.
class size.
Clearly it does. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And you probably, if you see it on the other end, some of the larger classes probably rank lower down in terms of their world ranking
Yes.
in academic achievement.
And there are. We know there are a number of variables, cultural
There's going to be
variables.
anomalies in there,
and,
right? Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there's
Because
strong
even
indication.
like I just think like
that-
what does it say for like I think of South Korea? Like what I bet they have quite a few in the kids.
South Korea has 31
Yeah, okay.
students
But I think-
average in class.
But I'm pretty sure they don't have the diversity of student that we have, right?
Yes.
So I think there's something culturally, we've moved to this very inclusive way of teaching, which is fantastic. But you can't have those numbers, right? But if if it's like 1949, I always seem to go back to 1949, and you had 40 kids that are all sitting at a desk, you're handing out worksheets, and they're all kind of just heads down, working away, and parents are very supportive at home, and if you get in trouble with the teacher, you go home and get in trouble with the
You get in
parent
trouble
again,
at
right?
home. Yeah.
So that clearly the old days and those situations where you don't have the classrooms that we have today, it can work. I don't think those are great places to learn.
Yeah,
So
no,
I think
agree.
our classrooms of today are far better places to learn, but you need smaller classes to make it work.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's our nugget. Class size matters.
Yes.
If you disagree, as always, let us know.
We would love to hear
yeah.
why you think there needs to be more students in
Yeah.
the classroom.
You let us know.
I want to know.
Want more. maybe your hope is to have you get a salary based on per child per head, right?
Ooh, there's a go.
Maybe that
would
could
be
do
a
it,
reason.
right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It says, I don't get to talk to all of them, but I get more money.
I'll take 50. I'll take 50.
What's that sound?
What's that sound? Well, that's time for the homework board.
Time for the homework
A little homework. We've gone on some good field trips. We got lots more coming. Got all kinds of great guests coming up. So I'm excited about that.
Yes.
But today's just a typical episode. Just homework, no field trip. I'm a little sad.
I know.
But the class size is just too big. You just
Yes.
didn't want to take me out
No.
onto the public transit.
I
said
can't
no.
walk
Yeah.
with 40 kids.
No. So
Safely.
we're staying in the class, and we have to do homework instead.
So for the homework board,
Yes.
this is a good one. It's timely, I believe.
Okay.
And that is for those teachers here in BC, there's a contract negotiation going on right now.
Yeah. Did you know that? I hope you know that.
And if you didn't know that,
I don't teach, and I know it. You need to know it.
you should. And so my homework for you is go to the BCTF portal and become aware of what the bargaining issues are right now.
Yeah. If you go in that portal, you just log in, and all the bulletins are there. They're top secret bulletins that you as a BCTF member can look at.
That's right. And you can look at them,
Yes.
and you can read them, and you could talk to other BCTF members about them, but you're not supposed to share that with the general public.
Yeah, and the thing, I think what's going on in Alberta is going to have an impact on these negotiations. Governments watch each other; they're looking, right? So
Yes.
you need to still be a voice and advocate for your teaching situation here, or wherever you are in the world. We have listeners, and just today we had listeners from around the globe. Today I've been looking at the stats, and we're getting welcome Brazil, welcome. Somewhere else was in Portugal, I think, and welcome someone in Iceland. So thank you for listening. And you all have different situations.
That's right. So one of the pieces of homework that
Yeah.
we have
Yes.
for our listeners who aren't from BC is, reach out to a colleague and sit down with your colleagues, maybe even at lunchtime, and discuss, why does class size matter? It's oftentimes when teachers sit down, and it's not about complaining or griping about situations, but having good discussions about why does class size matter in this particular situation, and why does it matter to you? Why does it matter to the students? Why does it matter to parents? Why does it matter maybe even looking at to your administration and your school? And by having those discussions, when it comes time for you, if you're part of a union, for bargaining, then those thoughts are there. You have them in the forefront. Because sometimes when you go to a union meeting and they'll say, okay, we'd like you to think about what are some of the issues
what should we bargain for, right?
I don't know. And oftentimes it's like, more money, right? But there are other things that replace more money that are important to
and we
teachers.
already have trouble recruiting people for this job. So I think the working conditions are so important.
The working conditions are very, very important.
And even if you're not in a union, you can still advocate for these things. No one should have to say, well, this is the way it is here. You have 40 kids. I mean, we all move forward. We all see a progression of development that makes life better because we have advocated for things.
That's right.
I think of even the BCTF, which used to be a union here in BC. In 1974, we did not have the right to bargain, right? But teachers in Surrey said class sizes are too big. And they went out in a huge protest. They advocated. The BCTF jumped on it. They met with the government. And there was a huge hiring of teachers. And I remember it as a kid. You can see my class pictures. They're 30 plus. And then suddenly in 74, they're 2025. They hired a massive amount of teachers because of this advocacy that took place by teachers who weren't actually really part of a union at that time. So they made a difference. So I want people wherever you are in the world, know you can advocate. You don't have to just say this is the way it is.
And having those thoughtful discussions start to lay a foundation for change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're going to do the detention hall, and I have cut out the sound, the siren sound. Haven't been using that, but I feel for this person.
Yes,
I think maybe we should put that siren back in because, Daniel Smith, Premier Daniel Smith, and the Alberta government for bringing in the Notwithstanding Clause and trampling on the rights of workers across this country. I mean, they're actually talking about maybe a general strike in Alberta. They have never had a general strike in Alberta, I don't think. It's not something Labor does there. They're very cautious. They work, as much as they can with the government, but they're really upset. And people in other provinces are looking at this.
Yeah. So could you share with our listening audience, what is the Notwithstanding Clause?
Right. Okay. So in the early 1980s, because we didn't used to have – our Constitution was in England. We didn't actually have our own Constitution, right? It wasn't until the early 1980s, the older Trudeau, Pierre Trudeau, was the Prime Minister for 15 years in Canada. He was able to sit down with the provinces and come up with a whole Bill of Rights, right? And our Constitution that guaranteed many, many rights, many wonderful things that I think Canada became a better place about that. But at the time, bringing in a system which was going to allow the courts to decide things, because until then it was a province, you pass legislation, that's the way it is. But to have these guaranteed rights, human rights, that were going to be in the Constitution, that was alarming and worrying for some provinces. And in fact, ironically, it was the Premier of Alberta, Peter Lougheed, a really good man. He realized when they were sitting around this table, they were having trouble getting this passed. They hit an impasse. Provinces were going, I don't think we can do this. So they almost didn't get this happen. He said, okay, here's a compromise. Let's put in the Notwithstanding Clause. So if there's something that you kind of really strongly feel against for 5 years, you can kind of violate the Constitution, some right that's based in the Constitution. But it was understood around that table this would be used rarely, right? It was something where
specific circumstances that were just extreme.
But it did allow us to get this Constitution that we could bring home from England and have, the full pride of feeling like our own country, because we couldn't really, we still felt like we were kind of connected to England. So that was brought in, and it was seldom used. It was an understanding that it was a rare thing. But lately it has been used a few times. But there's often pushback. Like in Ontario, Doug Ford tried the very same thing that Daniel Smith is doing. The teachers were out in strike. They brought in the Notwithstanding Clause to send them back, right? Because in 2015, everybody had the right to strike in this country. It was a Supreme Court decision. You couldn't say, well, you're a designated special service and you're an essential service. So that really opened up the door for labor action, which is how it is in most parts of the world. You can go on strike no matter what you're doing. But he had enough. He did this. There was such an outcry. People were saying, you've gone too far. Only 36% of Ontarians supported this. So 4 days later, they
pulled it back.
He repealed the legislation because that's the thing. When this is a rare thing, I think the public will go, oh, I don't know about this. You know, whatever side they're on, some thought teachers should be back in the classroom, but this was to them a bridge too far, shall we say. So it's always been that way. But I worry, and Labor worries, that if it starts becoming a normal thing, like we're seeing down south, someone who tries to do things that are becoming normal now. So once they become normal, people just go, oh, I guess that's the way it is.
Right.
So there's not pushback from the voter in the future.
Okay. So then when Alberta invokes the Notwithstanding Clause, then the Alberta teachers cannot contest or take the government to court for 5 years.
Exactly. And then this is new to me too, because I knew it was 5 years, but like in Quebec, I think they've evoked the Notwithstanding Clause, so nobody can wear religious items or symbols at the workplace in public jobs, I guess. They did that in 2019. 5 years later, 2024, they did it again. They extended it. So that's interesting. Then it becomes just a normal thing that we trample on some rights here for a certain reason. And BC, imagine. So in 2002, we in BC had our collective agreement just ripped up. We have good class size language in BC, but we didn't in 2002. The government said, nope, we're going to take that out. And we fought it for a long time. But they could have evoked the Notwithstanding Clause if they felt more bold about it, and they just kept on extending it for 5 years.
And extended, and that would prevent the BCTF of going to court and taking the government to account for an illegal action.
Yeah, and it took 15 years. That even though they didn't do that, it still took 15 years of fighting it at the local court level, all the way up to the BC Supreme Court, and then take it to Canada, where in 2014 we won all that language back. And I'll never forget that time in November 2014, because I had just started in the office. We had just gone through our own strike. You know, we'll talk about that probably lately down. The stress of that, right? So, listeners know, anyone who's a parent listening knowing, teachers don't want to go on strike. It's always the last thing you do, whatever you're fighting for. And when we had that long strike, it was also fighting to make sure that we didn't accept this contract where they would remove all the class size language.
Yes.
That's what they wanted. And we got it back because we went out and striked, so we still have that language. But it's the last thing people do. Any worker does not want to, try to survive without an income.
And really, in the end, when you go out on strike and at the time that you suffer, and then you get back to work, and you never really totally move ahead.
No, you don't.
You either break even, or you
lose that, right?
Or you lose money.
And that's why I think about the poor Alberta teachers. They've lost 3 weeks of their pay and their time, and they've achieved nothing.
Yes.
Right? They don't have that satisfaction, at least, that, hey, we got some class size language. We're reducing our numbers. But I just want to reflect upon that November 3 days, right? I remember I was in the office and 3 events happened. Okay. 2 of the 3 events were very sad. The first event, Leonard Cohen died. He passed away. The second event was the next day. Donald Trump got elected for his first term.
It was the weather in BC. Yeah. The skies were weird. It looked like something apocalyptic was going to happen.
Right.
It
wasn't the weather at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was weird.
No.
And then that happened.
But the third day, the Supreme Court just took 20 minutes to rule on our collective language and said, no, you violated the Constitution. That language is back in after 15 years. So that's where at the time I remember going to the board office, and there's a quote from Leonard Cohen that I love. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
Nice.
See, it makes me crack
like
up
that.
just saying it, but it just was a beautiful connection to
Yep.
Leonard Cohen. And that's the point about the homework. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
Yep.
Don't give up, right? Don't
Yes.
think this is just the way it is. I have to put up with this. No, you do not,
Yep.
right? You'll get that crack. You'll find that light. You'll be okay. Okay, sir.
All right, here we are in the rear view mirror.
Looking in the past.
Looking in the past
Yes.
so we can see where we're going in the future.
Yeah.
Right?
Got to know where you came from.
Yeah.
So you go forward, right?
Yes, you do. And this article that we found from someone who's a self-proclaimed flatlander.
Okay. That means they're from the prairies?
From the prairies,
Okay,
yes.
There you go.
And
Not a flat earther.
Not a flat earther.
Okay, got it.
And the article is in My Day.
Oh.
And this article is from the self-proclaimed flatlander
Yes, yeah.
as a student
Yeah.
on the prairies in a one-room schoolhouse. And
Like 70 years ago?
yes, about 70 years ago, and said that there were only 20 to 30 students in the classroom.
It's interesting because you always think of, those one-room schoolhouses as being 40, 50 kids. But I guess it just depends on the number of kids in the village, in the town,
community.
right?
That's right.
Yeah,
And they have to walk
Yeah.
to school. They're not being driven by cars or they get there. So
she
the
talks about
numbers are
that.
low.
I'm just going to read that first part because she talks about this, where the schools that were once all over Saskatchewan, so it's Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
were built close enough together so that the furthest any one child had to walk would be 4 miles. Which today, you're going to walk 4 miles to school, but
I can't even get them to walk a block.
right? But that was seen as progress, right?
Yes.
Guess what? Only 4 miles. Oh, that's
good.
amazing.
And the snow is above my knees, but that's good.
I just had over a mile, though, she did when she walked to school. She had it easy.
Yes.
Wow. Going down the road a short distance, then following the fence line between a wheat field and a pasture for a mile. I began making the walk twice a day when I was 6 years old. We lived in the Coteau Hills of southwestern Saskatchewan, but it wasn't uphill both ways, just a couple of gentle ups and downs. So her perspective, this is easy, great.
Easy.
The kids today would do that
I only had to go 1 mile.
And they probably had to heat their place too.
Well, and then
right?
the prairies, I mean, the temperatures. I remember being in Saskatoon in wintertime, around Christmas time, minus 30 degrees Celsius. I had my a scarf around my face, only my eyes peeking out, and when the wind blew, my eyelashes froze together.
Have you ever seen the Monty Python skit? It's the 4 Yorkshiremen or whatever. They're all one-upping each other. In my day, and they're just making it more ridiculously hard, and they're just going to the extreme. So
one-room schoolhouse in the winter. You got to know it's cold.
Yeah.
And the schools were heated with wood stove. It'd be lucky if maybe one of the local farmers would come in and start the fire for the teacher before the students came in. Wood would be provided by the community for free.
Yeah.
So they would donate the wood to the school.
Kind of like a Japanese story. Right? How they brought in kerosene, you said?
Brought in kerosene.
Yeah.
In this case, they
brought
in the wood. And then
here's my lunch, here's my log.
So if you were lucky, you would have someone who would light the fire for you. If not, then it was the teacher's job to light the fire early before the students came in, so it was nice and warm for them.
And then just to end her last paragraph, she says, those were the days when blackboards were black, chalk was white, and schools stressed the teaching of reading, writing, grammar, spelling, and all the elements of math. So again, the very different focus was on very
Where's the
few
science?
Things, right? Yeah,
right. Where's the socials?
Where's the inclusive education, right?
Yes.
Teaching online worries.
SEL,
and all
social
those things,
emotional
right?
learning. Where's that?
But and this is why she says, I'm very thankful to have gone to school at such a time as that. But I mean, again, you're thankful if you didn't have needs that were beyond just what fit into that small box. But not everyone's needs were met for sure.
That's right.
Anyway, that's a fun way to kind of end the episode. Before we do, though, I do always want to make sure that I am accurate. And I did mention at the beginning that they do have the jersey of the number 32 for the Blue Jays hanging up, but it's not Joe Carter. I don't think they've retired his jersey yet. It's Roy Halladay, right? So, and it was 32 years ago that they won. The Blue Jays won the World Series. Right. So, a correction. I stand corrected. don't want it to go out of this
You know,
episode.
it made a good story, though.
Yeah. Someone has spent the entire episode, oh my God, what's he talking about? No, that's not wrong. Oh.
And I have a addition.
Oh, good.
And, right, because we're talking about the all the baseball players having their intro song,
Yes.
and Ohtani's intro song, which I couldn't remember at the time, is "Feeling Good,"
Here you go.
right? And
Nice.
by Michael Bublé.
I think the Blue Jays are feeling good.
Yes, they
And I'm hoping by when this episode comes out, it's Monday. It'll be November 2nd or something like 3rd. I think November 3rd.
And
we
we'll
will
be
know.
feeling
we hopefully
good
will be feeling good.
that
The Blue Jays won it.
won.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Roy. This podcast is organic, taking shape with each episode. Building resiliency for teachers everywhere.
That sounds great.
And our website is stuntbrothers.ca.
That's stuntbrothers.ca.
We will chat again.
After the bell.